the braid and I'm taking it right out right after the braid. And I'll stitch this way all the way up to the part. I will not stitch the part itself. So if you stitch and apply this tension all the way up to the hair or up to that part, you won't have any gaps or anything flip-flopping or anything lifting up at all. So after I stitch all the way up to the part, I bring the needle back down and do just one more little run over, just making sure I reinforce that thread and go all the way back down to the side. And then I will not go all the way around the side. I am going to actually go back to the next side. And I'm going to sew right up to it. So you see right now that it's already looking good, but here I need to stitch this line down. And I'm going to tell you why. If you do not stitch this line down, when the sewing is going in and you're sewing down those sides, the closure will move back. So you have to make sure that the front of each of these lines is tied down and secured to that first braid so that once you start stitching the rest of her head down, this closure does not budge. So that is the importance of sewing down each one of these lines, because if you don't, the closure will shift the more tension you add throughout the sewing. So now that I am done with this front line, or just about, I can go ahead and stitch the rest of the closure down. So the front line is the most important. You want to sew the side of this shorter end first. So this side is what you would sew down first, just to make sure that part still stays in place. And it's a simple loop technique, so just in and out, in and out, nothing spectacular. You're going to actually sew over that little piece of lace as you finish the sewing. And you definitely want to sew all the way up to the closure and on top of that lace. So your last track needs to go all the way up to the line that hair for the closure starts. And that is important because you don't want her combing through any spaces in her head. You don't want the closure to attach to anything. Or you don't want her to comb through anything like thread or whatever. So here, I'm just sewing down the other side, and the tension's already applied to the other side, so you won't have to do much tension here other than just kind of stitching it down so that there's no lumps or humps in the closure. You want the closure to lay flat, look as natural as possible, and look just like her flesh. So, shout out to those nails. Look at those nails. Nisha Nails, y'all. She keeps me on point. Her name is Nisha Nails on Instagram. Y'all gotta check her out. But anywho, I'm gonna keep threading. And now I'm gonna actually take it around the back. So you pull the tension on both sides so that when you get to the back is already, tension's already applied to it. So it doesn't need any extra tension other than just making sure you pull it away from the hairline so that there's no folds in it. Because if there's a fold in it, it looks like a closure. So in my traditional stitching video where it shows how I actually sew in, I'll show you the backtrack information. But as far as the closure, I will go over the closure a couple of times, and then I'll just cut the thread. I won't actually tie anything because again, you're going to reinforce the closure laying flat by sewing that last track of your bundled hair all the way up to the hairline of that closure. So I cut, and now she's ready to sew. But let me show you the front of what her closure looks like, and it looks great. This is a really easy technique. It doesn't require adhesive, no damage to the hair, no breakage. And this is her fourth time using this closure, so you see it looks great. And this is the base of it before I start stitching. closure hairline looks perfect. You can't tell it's even there. So again, of course, so completely